So I am going to stay largely mute unless you want me to talk, because I think this is probably going to be mostly an artist call if anybody shows up. How is the Getty?
It's nice. I've actually been there a couple of times with a couple of ex-girlfriends. Oh, hey, what's up, Patrick?
Hey.
Hey, Pat. How are you?
Hey.
Thank you for joining us.
Sure. Finally, a time which is more doable for me.
Yeah. What time is it for you right now?
It's 9 p.m.
So you're UTC +1.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm in Germany. Or actually, I'm not in Germany,
Right.
but it's the same time zone. I'm in Asia right now.
Well, I'm happy to meet at amenable times. Like, basically, actually, Abe, I was thinking if we continue to have international interest, then what we would want to do is, just as a matter of course, have 2 sets of meetings, and then as infrequently as possible, you try to get everybody together. But you do need to do that every once in a while. But the time zone thing is that's a brutal thing to have.
It really is.
All right.
Right now, I'm on the. Yeah, go ahead, Abe.
Finish what you were going to say. I'll take a smoke break. See if I could rustle up some artists.
Okay, yeah. So I was just going to say that I'm on the Pacific Coast right now, and I work with a bunch of people on the Eastern time zone, and 3 hours is difficult. And I've worked with lots of people who are, +10 from me, +12, +8, and I don't like it. It's hard.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I'm actually building a company at the moment and hiring people, and I try to hire as many as possible from Germany, actually, but we're already spread so far, and one guy is from LA, and
oh my God,
and then it's already super difficult.
Yeah.
Schedule all team meetings and stuff like that. I mean, for me, it's no issue. I go to bed very late, and I can essentially be up all night.
Right.
But if you have like people which are working like 5 to or 8 to 5 for you, then
it's very
challenging.
And that's really when you have to have your async meeting management game at the top of its game. Like high quality Slack protocols, so that you don't end up just having a constant deluge. I was just in a set and in the UK and in the United States all at once, and it was a mess.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was gnarly. Oh, and it was because of the Let's Encrypt certificate revocation that happened yesterday.
Certificate revocation?
Oh. Okay, I not heard about it.
Yeah, across the board. The entire internet saw a significant error rate increase across the board.
Oh, so, I see it.
Yeah, the company that I work with does IoT on a very, very large scale. And so they were having problems with root certificate store needed to be updated on the server side. And if the clients don't get it, and the problem with IoT is the client that is in the firmware on the IoT device that's used to connect to whatever it is that's ingesting that data, it's really hard to update those suckers because it's firmware. Right. And so, for instance, you've got these MQTT clients running, MQTT3, who are still connecting to, still got their old certificate chains that they were deployed with. How do you fix that? Right. You got to do it on the server side where you give them the entire chain when they make the request. And nobody was prepared for that, is essentially what happened. So all of these client connections, they thought it was going to be a blip on the radar, but instead what ended up happening is like literally millions and millions and millions of clients were getting revocation errors because they
breaking up a bit, Rich.
What was that, Abe?
You're breaking up a bit. I don't know if it's just for me.
I think it's just for you because
Okay.
you're actually the one next to me.
Oh no. Oh no. The Getty is famous for terrible Wi-Fi. Terrible,
So
terrible
turn your video
Wi-Fi.
off. Turn your video off.
Beautiful.
Yeah, maybe that's the.
See, this is why Rich is on the team.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
All right. I'm also going to
That
quit.
and my good looks, my rugged good looks.
Quitting Discord seemed to work really well too. All right. Now we're cooking with gas. So I've been talking to a lot of artists trying to explain my concept for token gating and how NAPTCHA as an easier way of logging in is like a single use case for token gating that people can wrap their heads around. And the more I'm talking to these artists, the more they're inspiring me on more and more insane and yet feasible ways to leverage NAPTCHA and this concept of token gating.
Yeah, and what I want to say about that is, I think it makes perfect sense. And then the stuff we were talking about last night about like codifying the state machines that you want to create is, I think that would be like, for instance, I don't know if you've ever looked at a state machine diagram, but they are artistic. They are beautiful. And I was even thinking that you could turn your state machine diagrams into NFTs, right? I mean,
that would be cool.
Wouldn't that be cool?
I have an NFT of my
Right? Like
receipt for a pizza that I got for free.
Yes.
Right? It's called the Hosk Pizza Incident.
This whole idea, Abe, is brilliant. I mean, the whole thing is really, really, really going to have legs. And I think, you know, one of the pieces that I have caught on from you is that we don't have a lot of time because other people have had the same idea. They just aren't as mature in their thinking as yours is, I think, based on what I've seen. But other people are thinking the same way, right? Like this is one of those emergent ideas, I think, that other people are having across the globe. You just have got, like I said, probably the best conceptual model that I've seen so far. And I think really the trick is to start putting your ideas into formats that are easily consumable by highly technical people. And that's why I'm suggesting those diagrams. Because somebody like one of your Haskell scientists would be able to see those diagrams and basically figure out what the smart contract should do.
Roger. So Patrick, for a little more context, learning UML diagramming is the very next thing on my to-do list. And it's going to be because eventually we're going to have to hire a Haskell data scientist to do some pre-validation of the off-chain code, especially before we submit it to the Cardano marketplace and its alleged, available vetting tiers. But NAPTCHA, especially in this initial phase, the smart contract comes later. The service itself needs to be online on the day of the sale event so that people can use the tokens and know it's real. But the smart contracts will actually come after the pre-sale event. I'll be developing the Plutus section
this is
myself.
this is kind of my point, right? And the point is riffing on the possible powers that NAPTCHA offers, I think is valuable. However, it's not our current priority, is it?
Exactly. I mean, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can I ask you a question?
Priority.
Maybe actually, Abe, will you introduce Patrick and I? Or maybe Patrick, if you could introduce yourself, I'll introduce myself very quickly. So right now, what I do for my day job is I'm a principal architect at a company called Nuvalence. Nuvalence is what I'm calling a kind of Web 3.0 consulting company. we focus on platforms, digital platforms. So as an example, our largest client right now is Ford. So the IoT network that I was talking about is Ford's IoT vehicle network, right? So they basically, each vehicle has dozens of devices in it. Each one of those devices needs to be bound to the vehicle, blah, 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 right? And we're basically, what the organization that I'm working for right now is doing is ingesting all of that data from millions of vehicles across the globe and turning it into actionable intelligence. And also normalizing that data. And that's really where the power is in what we're doing, is that each and every IoT device has its own schema, right? And you can imagine the metadata management nightmare that that causes when you're trying to build an IoT platform that will support all of those devices within the vehicles. So that's kind of the quick synopsis of what I've been doing today. And then my history is that I've been in IT for 30 years, and I wear many hats. So I got to the principal architect position the hard way. I don't have a degree. I am an autodidact. And so one of the things that you'll find is that I have gaps in my knowledge that is the result of a more random approach to learning, as opposed to the more disciplined approach that you find in academia.
Yeah.
So what will often happen is I won't be able to speak directly to some of the more academic principles, but on a pragmatic side, I've made that shit work in the real world over and over and over again, and I understand what that means. So yeah, that's kind of my synopsis. Quick 10 minutes.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds very interesting, and I actually like the practical approach more than the academic approach, to be honest. Yeah, so I'm Patrick. You have more IT experience than I have years. I'm 23 at the moment. I essentially graduated university a few months ago, like 4 months ago. Then I started a company building NFT tools on Cardano. I made the NFTMaker and NFTMaker Pro. We've minted over 180,000 NFTs at this point, which is like almost 20% of the whole Cardano network, which is kind of crazy when I think about it.
It is nuts.
Yeah, it's nuts. And now, I'm scaling up the company. I hired 4 people yesterday, and we're taking on investment and just building stuff and building an NFT marketplace and all that surrounds it.
That's badass, dude. Yeah, actually, so you should consider me to be an NFT novice. Pretty much at this point, everything I've learned, I've been learning from Abe and the other artists, picking their brains. I'm also really, I would consider myself a crypto novice as well. But my kind of, in terms of a business plan, the work I'm doing with Abe is what I consider to be my low risk, high reward effort. And then I'm working on putting together a stake pool for Cardano. And that's, yeah. So in terms of like capabilities, I'm absolutely certain I can do the infrastructure side of things. Where I have a lack of knowledge and that I'm currently trying to level up on is the fundamental principles behind running a stake pool and understanding that, like, what is proof of stake versus proof of work? What does it mean to have a stake pool that has delegated value being assigned to the operator? And then also my end goal is to have my stake pool be the first stake pool on Cardano that's actually running a full implementation of Conclave. And Conclave is their fully trustless non-operator model for running a stake pool.
Wow, that's actually very cool.
Yeah, so if you go to the IOHK website and you look at their most recent research papers, you will find the paper that I'm talking about on Conclave. So they've already done what I would consider the kind of fundamentals of the work, right? I don't know it. So this is where I would be getting lost, right? I don't know the math. I can't do the math. I haven't got that kind of an education. But I could, to give you an example of like the pragmatic side of things, I can take that document and I could build the infrastructure that would be implementing what they're talking about in there, right? Like I have that kind of skill. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I'm from university, but I do not consider myself an academic. I'm more of like a practical person and a big picture person, and I'm very good at just building stuff and not really researching stuff.
Yeah.
But just one thing, I don't have a lot of time, so I think
yes,
we move fast because I have like a hard cut at in 50 minutes.
Okay. So then let me kind of tell you where I am in terms of the practicalities and what I'm expecting to show this evening is I'm expecting to show the framework on which I'm going to be building the first iteration of the NAPSHA API bridge. That's going to be built in Python, mostly because it seems like that's what the ecosystem wants. And if we're going to be hiring people who are going to be coming from that ecosystem to work on this, I want to make sure that it's got a low barrier to entry for them. And then it's going to be based on really simple, idiomatic, asynchronous Python, where we'll be using a message bus to pass messages back and forth between the Python app and its functions, which are going to be initially very simple. And that is essentially connecting Shopify with NFTMaker Pro, your API. With the expectation that because we're building it in an asynchronous, message-driven environment, it'll be able to scale horizontally. And then also, of course, there will be a database backend that's going to be responsible for maintaining our data at rest. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm designing around two principles. One principle is that we're going to have data in motion. And that data in motion is essentially our stream, right? And the reason why I'm going that route is because of the uncertainty around Cardano's transaction times and the absolute certainty that running it using an event model would be tightly coupling us to events that have got too much non-deterministic behavior. So for instance, when you're looking at something like Cardano, where the transaction times could be seconds or it could be milliseconds, we don't know when that transaction is going to complete. So what we need to do is we need to build things that are going to be able to withstand the consequence of a transaction ever completing. That is almost, identifiably the characteristics that you are looking for from an event bus or a message bus, right? And then our data at rest. The data at rest is the basically the mapping of powers to tokens eventually. Initially, it's going to be almost all like e-commerce based data that we're going to need to store in order to manage our clients, the people who are actually participating and purchasing things from us. But eventually what we're going to end up with, I think, is a graph database. I think that the idea of building a relational model around this, and Abe, this is where when you keep asking me about the DB, and I've kind of been wishy-washy around it and kind of hand waving, it's because I've been doing the analysis about the kind of data that you're talking about. And this is why I keep drilling into this concept of the state machines and the flow diagrams, because technically the best database model for managing complex state machines and their interactions is a graph, frankly. And so the idea that we would be mapping our data at rest exclusively in an RDBMS, I think is a bad idea.
So how do you now feel about these timelines, these tentative timelines that
totally doable. Totally doable still. Absolutely still doable. Yeah. So in other words, even though it sounds like I'm complexifying things, Abe, what I've talked about is all within the realm of standard practice. Like this isn't, none of this is innovative.
So
right?
Patrick,
This is a, yeah, go ahead.
In December, just prepare for the possibility of a traffic spike.
Well, here's the thing, Abe. One of the things
I hired someone yesterday. I pay him 10,000 euro a month just to scale our service up. So I hope we can handle everything by December.
If you need some free advice, Patrick,
yeah,
I'm happy to, if you want me to have a conversation with this person you're paying 10,000 euros a month, that is what I do. I am, in fact, I would say I'm a scalability expert, and I'm going to point you to a website that will help you educate yourself. It is www.perfdynamics.org.
Perfdynamics.org.
Let me know when you got it up.
Oh my God, I'm
Typo.
I wrote it with a V.
yeah. Perf Dynamics, I love it. Oh my God, that's so cool. That is a great. Did it come up as a real website?
No, unfortunately it didn't. But you should.
Yeah,
you should buy that domain.
Buy that one right now. Yeah. So Perf Dynamics, it's an organization run by a guy named Neil Gunther, and he is the father of this idea of the universal scalability law. And if you hearken back to your computer science training, you might remember learning about Little's law, which is the law that governs symmetric multiprocessors and their scalability. Well, this guy came along and he realized that that was a specific solution to a general law, and he came up with the universal scalability law. And you use this when you are trying to figure out how to scale. Now, you don't have to go down that kind of a detailed route, but having that level of understanding when you're approaching the problem is a necessity. So if you want somebody to talk to your guy, if you're concerned about spikes in traffic and you want some ideas about how you can prepare yourself and also not future proof, but at least make yourself more resilient to spikes, we can have that conversation.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks for the offer.
Yeah. So then back to your question, Abe, those timelines are all very reasonable because and this is kind of coming back to the point that I was making earlier, is you've set yourself some very reasonable goals. And when I think you start focusing your attention on the powers that we're going to be applying, what you're doing is you are, like I said, you're riffing on the magic of your idea, but it's actually not what we should be focusing on right now, because what we've got ahead of us, while they're doable, I think it's going to be a challenge.
Well, one of the next conversations we definitely have to have is doing the cold hard math on the cost of overhead for such powers.
Right. Well, here's the thing, though, is that you can't figure out the cost of overhead until you start building those powers, and we don't need to build those powers until after we have NAPSHA up and running.
Well, some of them will be live. Like,
so if there's any
basic token gate, I'd like to be live.
So you want a smart contract for that? No.
No, all off-chain pre-sale. All
right.
Off.
So that's not where we would be able to. So right. So off-chain is not something that you can do that kind of a deterministic cost analysis on.
Okay. Well, I figured we could approximate like the cost of each, the cost of database requests on a per each basis. But since
what you're talking about,
tokens, we know for sure there's not going to be more. So at least we have a worst case scenario. Right, and the NAPSHA database keeps track of query credit usage, which we determine, and it simply counts down to 0.
I think maybe the word cost that you're using is not the same word cost that I'm using. Or if it is, I'm just not understanding what you're saying, and maybe we should have an offline discussion about it.
Yeah, offline for sure. Just costs of storage and data and things like that.
Okay, yeah. So what you're talking about is something known as a metered rate service. And it is absolutely one of the reasons why I'm choosing the architecture that I am, because generally metered rate services need to be able to asynchronously collect all the data about what you're doing. And that's, again, another example of what you use a message bus for.
Can you go back to the other slide, the Odin auction again? I want to read.
Patrick, we're at time, yes? We're at time for you?
Yeah, almost. Almost, but
Okay.
actually, can you go, Abe, can you go to the Odin auction slide again, which you just had opened for a second?
Not that one.
Odin, exactly. Unusual auction model. Okay, 1 second. Okay, got it. Thank you.
So
yeah, unfortunately, I still have to go now. But I think, you know, just in general, what you're doing is super interesting. And I try to join more meetings, but it's very hard for
So
me.
Patrick, do I have
And
do I
also-
have permission to ping you asynchronously through Discord?
Sure, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
And then you should feel free to do the same with me.
I will.
Okay.
Cool.
Great.
And
Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it, Patrick.
Thank you.
It was wonderful to talk to you.
peace. Wow. Okay. Great.
Okay, so that's the Patrick that you were talking about.
Yeah. Glad we did a 12 o'clock one.
Yeah, me too. That's perfect, dude. That was absolutely exactly what I was hoping we would be able to do. So I didn't realize that was the Patrick. I didn't know who that was.
Yeah, that's NFTMaker, Patrick. And
There you go.
just for everybody else's edification, NAPSHA and Dropnir on some level will be based in pretty much on top of NFTMaker's basic functions.
Right.
We'll also have some serious plans.
Right. So in other words, the way I'm thinking of it is
The non-crypto
the way I
market.
think of it is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think of NFTMaker Pro as the minting layer.
For sure.
Okay.
And then
That was me actually asking a question.
yes, and then all of the data like the price table lookup, and we can replicate all of that offsite and take advantage of the API. The API, I love how it's a set of basic building blocks. So you can make a bunch of clever apps that, you know, create a wallet, wait for money to come in, but combine these basic steps in clever ways. Let's see who's on the call. Hey, what's up, Cardano Pets? Perfect timing. Unmute yourself and show us some of your animated drawing. This might be the perfect time to explain how they're actually drawn, quote, before your eyes. Oh no. Oh well. Well, drop in anytime or DM me. It's probably my fault. Most likely it's my fault, a settings issue. Let's take a look at
Hey there, can you hear me now?
Can.
Oh yeah, hey, what's
Hold
up?
on, Aim. So
Hey, sorry about that.
No worries.
Just getting set up over here.
While you get set
So-
up, I don't know if you've seen these application layers or if we really talked about it. We have a lot of data that we have to store. So why not just make some of that data available as its own service, as an API? Perhaps,
Of course.
perhaps open.
absolutely.
The Cerberus, which is the working title I'm giving to our efforts in anti-counterfeiting, that data ought to be available to everybody. Therefore, there should be no excuse for any other marketplace that comes along to not have that info alongside the item. You know what I mean? Or to factor it into their onboarding. I've got some interesting ideas about how to tell the difference between parody and artist rights of free use and a malicious counterfeit. It's probably going to be a list of simple layers stacked on top of each other, simple checks. But policy ID academically works perfectly. It works perfectly. But we need that and more now. I believe everybody pretty much agrees we need some sort of centralized artist registry so that there can be some sort of level of trust, because there are situations in which the policy ID does not protect you. I could pretend to be an artist that is coming out with a new drop, right? And a new policy ID that that hasn't been used before, and then there you go. And then it gets stickier when you're trying to protect artists that are famous but have never even heard of Cardano, and people are making 6 figures selling NFTs they found on Google search. So my basic argument is that something has to change, something has to evolve about the CNFT ecosystem before the digital and the analog can truly merge, before Taylor Swift, Dave Chappelle, whomever will take a serious look at putting their content on blockchain.
So I have a question about that.
Yeah.
Is it that the blockchain has a, what am I trying to say? Does it have to meet or beat its competitors, or does it have to be perfect? In your mind? Like, for instance, one of the things that I know for a fact, because I've done a whole bunch of work on it, is determining when, say, somebody steals a photo. And the context for me was in real estate, and specifically listing photos. And what companies would do is they would go and scrape other people's sites and other people's photos, and they would put them on their own site and use it to market things. And I know for a fact, because like I said, I've done the work, just something as simple as that is so hard that we had to abandon the project, frankly, right? And so when I hear things like protecting people from counterfeit, I see that definitely as a necessity, but I see it as such a huge technical hurdle, at least initially, that spending time trying to solve it is I think it's a rabbit hole.
You're absolutely correct. It's actually going to be extremely complicated if I have my way with the abstraction series image hashing concept. But there are things that can be done in the immediate term that are
yeah, that's kind of where I was going, is I'm really curious what you think those are.
Yeah, so one solid example would be analyzing the blockchain for timelines, a presumption of originality from the first appearance of artist names of an exact spelling.
I've thought about that. The real problem with that is that Cardano's blockchain is not immediately consistent, right? It has something known as eventual consistency, and that's one of the ways that they are able to scale.
Well, yeah,
with the proof of stake blockchain, right? Eventual consistency means that it's possible that an artist's mention hits the blockchain in a different order in which it actually happened in the real world.
True, but an artist is not going to go from 0 to popular enough to have a claim for artist rights in the time that.
So it's a heuristic.
Yeah, well, yeah, there are definitely heuristic elements, but then you need to also search for exact and similar matches, such as like using Greek letters to make an A that looks like an A, to
Mhm.
fool people, right? What the trademark of a malicious counterfeit, a forgery intended, to capitalize on artists' fame to make money, is not just the wrong policy ID,
Mhm.
but they have to use the artist name and metadata. Otherwise, they're not trying to fool anybody, are they? Right.
Good point.
So by checking
Understood.
that, that's a first initial check, and then the bad guys are going to get more and more complicated, and then we're going to have to get more and more complicated. The end game is a graphical analysis AI. You just have to have a system actually look at the image, and the abstraction series algo like hashes an image into a series of what he calls like math's most basic shapes or nature's most basic shapes. Or
Oh no,
something.
I got to tell you, I think I said this in the Discord, that the idea is brilliant, right? Like it's the
That
first layer of
intermediary
data
step.
layer. What was that?
It could be that intermediary step from where we are now to one smart contract being the media manager per article, per media, basically glass. It could be the intermediary between getting us to the glass protocol. The abstraction hash would allow a token to no longer represent the art, but simply contain or represent the hash that would be produced if you were to scan or rescan an image or even a physical painting. Even if the
So one of the questions that I have about the abstraction process, is it really a hash? If I take the same image,
allegedly
same
it's stable,
characteristic.
yes.
Oh, it is stable. That's
Allegedly it's
fascinating.
stable. So let's say the canvas sags and the oil cracks, or it was scanned at a different angle and distance. It doesn't matter because the detail of the scan is so intense that you could verify a mathematical improbability that the token is not the owner just by looking at a couple of square inches of it. There might be a swirly shape in a corner, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pattern matches in that 2" by 2" square from the image hash to the image hash found in the token.
What if it's a digital image and it doesn't have that kind of analog detail?
It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. It's exactly. With tokens no longer representing art, but as a verification of ownership, the validation of physical and digital art is fucking indistinguishable.
I'm talking about the abstractions.
Yeah, the little squares.
Right. So when I build an abstraction from a square, so based on what you were saying, if I were to build an abstraction of a painting of a square, right? And one of the ways that I'm going to determine whether or not it was a forgery is by the detail within 2 square inches, as you said. But then I go and take a square that I used a digital device to make, where you're guaranteed uniformity in the color of the square.
Oh yes, I forgot the icing.
You see where I'm going with this?
I forgot the icing on the cake. The policy ID has to in some way be combined with the image hash.
I see. So at the time of minting,
when they scan the oil painting on the other end, in that other scenario, that image hash has to be somehow married to the policy ID.
I see.
And it would be better if the policy ID could be determined instead of generated randomly, if the policy ID
Right.
hash of the image hash. So that's basically far down the line, my ideas for the self onboarding process of the marketplace, where the counterfeiting firewall happens up front, and it's basically going to be the same platform that we're hosting the UTO sale event on. Shortly after the sale, I'm going to continue working on it, and one of the first things will be a self onboarding process. Cardano Pets, do you have any questions about how token gates or drips work, and any ideas how you might leverage that for your project? I think we talked at length about it a couple of days ago.
Yeah, so I've got a ton of different ideas. I'm just not exactly sure how I would go about implementing them because
I'll see how
yeah,
we'll shoot the shit about the feasibility on the spot.
that'd be great. Yeah, I'll send you a bunch of stuff. Let's see. Yeah, I don't more my questions are more about, kind of a general things like what kind of like collection size you would expect from the artist, things like that.
Roger, that's a good question. So as far as collection size, I'm going to direct you to my Google Sheet mockup data feed of tokens. There's going to be 10,000
Okay.
different types of tokens, and it's going to have to be up to the artist amongst yourselves and with our help, which tokens you guys want mapped to your art. So if you feel like it, you could just have 5, 6, 7 NFTs. There may be an artist that wants to have 1 NFT per oil painting and is only auctioning off 3. But there's 10,000 to choose from in different tiers. And if you look at this aggregate.
So I have a question about that, Abe.
Go ahead.
Can people use an NFT for a collection?
Explain that a little more.
So is it one NFT per art piece?
They could have it's up to the artist to choose how many maximum can be minted for that policy ID. They're going to have to choose how many per art piece can be minted for that policy ID.
So the answer to my question was yes.
Yeah.
That's what I was asking.
There's 1,500 indigo tokens, and a single artist could take all 1,500, or just 500 indigo and 200 of the 2,000 red. It depends on what is best for you guys and which artists are in the mix. We're projecting minimum costs. So the sale is going to be an auction model where customers basically choose their price. Above a certain number, they just pick a number and then pay that amount. And there are no losers. Anybody who actually sends money gets a token. But this is that aspect of the Odin auction model. Which token you get mathematically can't be determined until the sale is over, because whoever pays the most gets the most powerful tokens. Whoever pays the most gets the most powerful tokens within the tier that they chose to participate in, because these tokens come with powers, and those powers have, certain overhead costs. We'll get into off channel. And certain abilities are simply turned on or off for certain tokens. They literally will do different things. The 3P artist, for example, is for people that are not at all interested in NAPJA. They don't have any need to be a business user, but they do want to sell art that has the drip rewards.
All right. Yes. So I will definitely, admittedly, I have not spent the time to go through this stuff. So I need to get in there and start, peeling away some of these layers and figuring this stuff out. But ultimately, like our model right now, we use a third party for our distribution, and there's no cost for us to send and have on their marketplace. Essentially, the cost is essentially a payment that we pay them once the person who's buying is minting.
Roger, so that'll work the same here.
Okay.
Our store is going to have a node server as like the glue that gets everything done, but it's going to be built up on top of NFTMaker Pro's protocols. And NFTMaker doesn't ask any money of you. They use the incoming money to mint the item. So yeah, I'm literally
Okay.
talking about
Okay,
for
cool. That's
participating
perfect.
artists. Like I'm literally, from my perspective, I'm giving thousands or tens of thousands and possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars away for free for almost no effort. These are the minimums. I need 50 ADA per gold token, and there's only 100 of them, and a minimum of 1 for the green ones. But if you sell an art piece for 500 ADA that's mapped to a green token, I keep 1 ADA, you keep 499, essentially.
Okay, gotcha.
And this is how we guarantee that we get the money we believe we need to make Napsha and Dropnir a reality.
Hey. Sorry, guys. I'll be right back.
Okay. You mentioned on your site, you mentioned that there is a philanthropic element to Cardano Pets. And I'm dying to take a project further than promising a certain percentage of sales go to a charity. There's so much more ways we can help shelters, pet shelters, other than promising to send money.
Oh, I totally agree. And I think right now you have a lot of people saying that they're donating and even maybe posting receipts of donations, but I'm more interested in actively involving myself in the community. I love kids, I love pets, I love art. So I'm trying to merge kind of all those together and start in a very, centralized place here in San Diego and start working outwards and see who we can help. And it's not for profit. I'm very honest about that, I'm very forward about that, but we are definitely, we've dedicated a page on the website to showing, if you're buying our product, you're making a difference in somebody's life, and here's that person, and here's how you're making a difference. And whether that be children or animals, we have a lot of people that we're talking to right now, and we'd like to do a lot more than just sending them money.
I got a crazy one for you.
That's kind of.
Are you sitting down?
Yeah.
Do you have a glass
yes,
of water
sir.
or something to hydrate you?
I got coffee.
Okay. So are you familiar with the ear tag scanning systems that the shelters use?
Yes.
All right. So more than likely, these softwares store data in the cloud and also utilize an API. So what you're going to want to do is develop a system by which you onboard these shelters to open up that API access. Whenever a new animal is tagged in, a new token is minted. And you don't even have to fucking design it, because with the code glue that you'd have to develop, you're just listening for new animals coming in as they're ear tagged, Roger. Then you're taking information that the employees are entering about the pet, including a photo, that automatically becomes a token available for sale. Now, you can also automatically include an intelligent pricing model too, that makes sense on a per animal basis. When the token is purchased.
So Abe, I'm gonna interrupt for a second.
Yeah.
I got to drop.
No worries. We're almost done here anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm closing up in 10 minutes.
Talking to you, and great meeting you, Cardano Pets. Yeah, you
Yeah,
too.
you have a
I'll
good
talk
one,
to you
man.
soon. And Francois, I'll talk to you later, I guess.
Oh, hey,
All right.
Franks.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. All right, I'm out.
Peace. I'm so glad that we did the so glad that we did this meeting. Shoot. Hold on. Just a second. Can y'all hear me? Do a radio check. All right.
Yeah,
Excellent.
We can hear you.
So I'm actually at the Getty today. I ran my ass over with a scooter and a lift to get over here. And as soon as this meeting is over, I'm going to see what kind of trouble I can stir up. And in about 7 hours, we're going to do the actual planned meeting. But this one is for the internationals. You want to show off some of your art, Francois, and especially if you had ideas for something upcoming?
Yeah, we just developed an NFT with a Spanish artist, Olga Molina. And we would like to do more NFT, a kind of a series. First of all, we must sell all the first set to go further. So at the moment, it's a little bit difficult to get more sales, but I hope in the near future we can have more participants in the NFT. But I'm really happy to have made this one, and I hope we can do more.
Do you
with
have
Olga, which
the
is a very
ability
good
to share your
artist.
screen?
I don't have cam at the moment.
In case you had some art.
So,
I really liked the John Lennon one.
what can I show you? I don't know how to do that.
We're gonna go in about 5 minutes, just so you know.
But your project is amazing, Simos, and I want to follow you.
Okay, no worries. I'm going to walk you through a couple of the most important aspects. So when I talk about powers, the token can do this, the token can do that. I'm talking about two specific things. Token gates that are powered by Napsha and drip rewards that will be powered by Dropnir. Napsha is a business-to-business service where you can design your own utility. And it is basically a toolbox by which an artist that doesn't know anything about coding can use the Cardano smart contracts to gamify or enhance their own art or their own marketing. The most simple example of a token gate is you cannot get into a VIP page, or you cannot log in to your account unless you have a certain NFT. So the username and the password, they go away forever. And CAPTCHAs, there's no need for CAPTCHAs to exist anymore. And you don't like for any other website, basically. You got me?
So a key, yeah?
Yeah, but it's a scalable third-party business-to-business type model, whereby the platform doesn't matter. It's totally platform agnostic. These powers follow the token. It doesn't matter who has them. And the gates essentially are database entries in our system that include sending back return values or also running scripts server side. But the idea is you design them in a simple layman's terms way, and then Napsha provides you a script, and you copy and you paste it onto anything you want, and then that page becomes.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah. So with this model, you can invent your own subscription-based model, and you can token gate the entire website. There's
okay, and now drips.
Yeah.
What's up with these drips?
Dropnir is the bigger project that will happen if Napsha happens. Dropnir is essentially smart contracts indirectly related to stake pools, and the point is, when you buy a dripping NFT, the NFT will send you ADA plus fungible tokens plus other NFTs for as long as you hold the token. A portion of the sale that you spend in buying the art is diverted to a staking pool, which in an indirect way, algorithmically powers the cost of these drips perpetually for the same art piece. So basically we're looking at—
So who's in charge of the drips?
Two people. Dropnir is, plus there's a secondary layer that I'm calling the echelons concept. There will be a way by which artists can push their art through these stake pools. and into people's wallets. You're touching on an end game by which, long story short, not only is the purchasing of art that you like fully automated, but the selling of an artist's art is fully automated. So imagine a world where an artist wakes up, gets busy with his paintings, and worries about absolutely nothing other than painting, knowing that his stuff is going to be sold on Cardano. Now, on the other side of the world, an art aficionado who is already a fan of his decides to do what I'm calling a subscription devotion of the reward stream. In other words, the collection in your wallet is paying you. ADA is trickling in, and that's nice. But you can choose to have that ADA, some of that ADA held back. And that ADA is used to purchase the art for you at the asking price the artist wants to get paid. So if you're shooting for collecting an artist that's very expensive, it's going to take you a while, but basically,
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty amazing, man.
it's potentially the end of marketplaces overall, the shopping process overall.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean,
as far
malls
as-
are already done for. We might as well pull the trigger.
As far as making it real for people, I want to have a handful of powers that actually work on the day of the sale, perhaps even before. I don't want to have to like promise the world and have nothing to show for it when I want your money. So on the day of the sale, you ought to be
That's
able
what
to
I like to
validate the
hear.
token in the token gate to trigger a token gate for a physical power. A print-on-demand print shop that takes API requests can send you a wall calendar. So that's another thing. Start thinking about what art you want to put on the collab wall calendar.
Yeah, totally.
All right. It's been about an hour, a little over an hour. I think the restaurant people are looking at me funny. Just kidding. I'm going to go stir up some trouble at the Getty and maybe buy some stuff. So I'm a legitimate customer, and I'll definitely post. I am leaning very hard on having both Cardano artists and classical artists in this event. Oh
yeah, man.
what
I
you
think it's
missed is
super
the-
interesting.
Thank you very much. Before I go, what you missed is these preliminary timelines I verified with my dev partner are real. So I believe that this sale event can happen in mid-December.
Yeah, you
Okay.
plan
sweet.
to release by the end of December.
Yeah, around mid-December.
Okay, great. That looks awesome.
All right, guys.
Yeah, that works great with my schedule.
I'm very. Oh yes. I want to show you this one too. The sale event platform. After the sale, it's going to evolve into a CNFT marketplace. Basically, the next step will be to develop an artist self-onboarding process. Any information that we have on the site, like which tokens have which powers, they ought to be publicly available, especially once we start getting into the artist counterfeiting protection services. No matter what marketplace you like shopping on, that information about the token, whether it's fake or whether it has utility across the web, it should be available to you no matter where you're shopping. And then for the marketplace, you should be able to choose from five different types of sales. So you know about random, right? Everyone does random.
Yeah.
Sure.
Would you
You spend 50 ADA.
implement?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Would you implement royalties in the smart contract for
Actually, we do have plans for implementing royalties on Cardano. The way that would work is through NAPSHA. So very, very basically speaking, you create your gate keys in pairs. You chain them together, and there will be an attribute for each gate key that says something like whether or not additional ADA is required. So for the gate key to trigger, optionally, you can choose that the token plus additional ADA payment is required for the gate key to process successfully. And you use this in combination with another attribute to send back ADA to the original artist every time a gate key is processed in this way. So NAPTIA is flexible enough to handle giving artists royalties on the Cardano ecosystem in more than one way, and it's intuitive to design it.
How do you found the project?
Say again?
How do you fund the project?
How do I fund the project?
Yeah.
With this sale event that's coming up. So the utility token offering is going to be the way that we will raise enough money to guarantee that NAPTIA gets developed. And this collaboration sale between you and me, you guys are going to keep maybe 95% of the money, because for each token, we have plans for minimum amounts. Here, for each type, we have minimum amounts, and we keep all of the money from the minimums. So here, if our minimum is 1 ADA and you want to sell your art for 300 ADA, then we keep 1 ADA, you keep 299 ADA. We only want enough money to guarantee that the software gets developed. Yeah.
Have you guys factored in the cost of minting, or how are you guys minting?
We're actually using our own node server that connects to an NFTMaker Pro account. So there'll be no cost up front, or really no cost ever to the artists. The cost of minting is taken from the sale.
Right, but when we're talking about pricing out our CNFTs, and then we can subtract say we go with the model you just talked about, and we subtract the one that will be going to you guys, how much of our profit will also be going towards covering the minting? I think that site is what,
Honestly,
usually
I do not know.
3 to 5 or something like that.
Oh, it should be less than that. Besides, fun fact, Patrick was in the call earlier, so I'll be talking to him about lowering the prices or having a selective pricing model. Right. I'm going to be sending him an unthinkable amount of traffic next year. So yeah, expect the prices to be cheaper than normal. and expect to charge a lot more than you normally do for your art, because it's the same badass art. It just now has utility all across the web.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna update my art to reflect that for this particular,
awesome
release. Anyway, I know you got to go. You said something about possibly getting together again at 8 o'clock tonight, or is that canceled? We'll do that another time, or what?
No, it's actually always at 8, but now I'm doing 12 and 8 for the international guys.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, well, I'm glad I could pop in on this one too. So I'll see you tonight.
Awesome. See you.